guys, and welcome back to Thanks for Stopping By. Welcome back to the podcast. So obviously, things have changed. A few things to address. Number one is that the podcast has been on quite the hiatus. Um, I think the last upload I had was in January, and it is currently June. Which Happy Pride Month, by the way. Um, but yeah, so I haven't done the podcast in a while. If you follow me on social media, you'll have seen some of the reasons why. Just a lot of personal issues that I won't delve super deep into. But I had to kind of step away from making stuff for a while and just focus on getting my life figured out and getting my living situation figured out and everything. But luckily, we now finally have a beautiful space to film stuff again. If you've seen on me and my wife Ryan's channel, Saffron Sapphics, we actually started a YouTube channel for that. We started a YouTube channel for our podcast that we host together. And we're doing Let's Play stuff as well. There's only one video up right now. It's a Minecraft house tour. But it was a lot of fun. And we've got our equipment set up to do Let's Play stuff. And there's more of that coming as well. So you can find that in the description. And go over there and sub and check out our video game stuff because it's a lot of fun. We've been wanting to do video game stuff for a very, very long time now. And we're really excited that we get to do that finally. So yeah, speaking of Saffron Sapphics, another thing to address is that it is no longer currently on audio-only platforms for the time being. The issue with that was obviously in the midst of trying to figure out a lot of financial stuff, we lost our account where we host the podcast, and aren't really in a place to have that going currently. So for now, the podcast is going to come back. It is just going to come back on the YouTube channel that I just mentioned, Saffron Sapphics, which will be linked in the description. And that's where the podcast will be hosted for now. We do plan on getting it back up onto Spotify and iTunes and all of that. But for the time being, it's going to be YouTube only. And I'm trying to make it not happen, but the same thing might happen with this podcast. Thanks for stopping by. Because again, just financials and all that. And so for a while, this podcast is also going to be on YouTube. I have 32 episodes that are going to go up in the audio only format here on YouTube. So it'll just be a picture background and the audio. But I figured because I wanted to move the podcast to YouTube as well, I want to do something different with it and do something a little more unique and something I've been wanting to do for a while, rather than just posting each episode with a picture or a logo background. I wanted to make a video podcast, and that's what I'm doing. And while I'm very, very excited to do it, I'm super stoked. I've been wanting to do this for such a long time. It is still a work in progress, so please bear with me. I have no fucking idea what I'm doing. I'm figuring all of this out by myself through YouTube tutorials and all of that. I am not the brightest when it comes to computer stuffs. So your girl is not a technical queen. So it may be rough at the beginning a little bit, and slowly I might, I'm going to try and get better and better each time. But just bear with me for the beginning. It's exactly that. It's the beginning of a new era for the podcast. But yeah, I'm really excited because I've wanted to do a video podcast for a long time. I've done a solo podcast now for, I think almost 2 years, and a lot of my favorite, uh, podcasts that I kind of, my biggest inspiration for starting a solo podcast was Curtis Connor's podcast, Very Really Good, which I think is pretty apparent if you've listened to both, because I, along with Curtis's podcast, am just someone sitting in a room kind of talking about whatever and getting very distracted constantly, um, and doing a lot of weird random bits that I find funny and no one else does. Um, and that podcast I've been watching for a long time, and I've always loved the video element, um, because it's just something, I don't know. It's something I like to have on in the background when I clean, or when I, am working on my own scripts and videos and working on stuff online. And it's nice to have a visual to it. One thing I don't want to do, transitioning to a video podcast, is sort of go the route where I notice a lot of people, when they transition to doing a video podcast, they start doing a lot of visual bits and visual things, like watching stuff, and like, H3 podcast is a prime example, that when they got their big podcast set up and switched to the multi-camera, it just became like a 2 hour long reaction podcast. And that's fine for people who love that kind of stuff. But for me, I still like to be able to just listen to a podcast if I have to. Obviously, I drive a lot for wrestling. Um, so when we go on these long drives back to California, I like to listen to podcasts. And when an hour of your hour and a half long episode is you watching something and doing commentary that I can't see, it just gets a little frustrating. So I don't want to do that to everybody. Sometimes I will have, like a picture or something, if I'm promoting something, or I want to talk about something. But I want to try and do my best to, if I do have visual elements, it doesn't necessarily take away from the listening experience. It's just kind of an added feature. Fucking sorry for going on a crazy tangent about updates, but it's been like 6 months since I've talked to any of you. But yeah, like I said, we have this beautiful, beautiful, gorgeous space. I'm so excited about it. As you can see, it's all decked out. I've got my, you can kind of see sneak peeks of my set back there, but don't look too much. Don't look too much. Don't look at it, because I'm planning a lot of videos and stuff. I know I say that literally all the fucking time, and then 3 months goes by, and everyone's like, where the fuck is that? I'm also wondering, because I have no fucking idea where they went either. Um, yeah, I'm trying my hardest, but it's been a very long couple of months. But things have kind of started to calm down. I can't promise I'll go to weekly uploads with my videos. I definitely want to go back to weekly uploads with the podcast. Because if any of you know me, podcasts are way fucking easier to me than videos, because videos, you have to script and you have to fucking edit and all this shit. And the podcast, I can just sit on my couch and fucking talk about nothing. And it's oh my god, it's so fantastic. Like, I think the reason so many people during the pandemic started a podcast, because, by the way, it was literally fucking everybody. Everyone started a podcast during the pandemic. And if anyone wants to say I did that too, you're not wrong. But at the same time, I've started like 47 podcasts since the time I was like 14. So also doesn't count. But I think everyone started it because, A, boredom, obviously. We were all bored as shit. The people who actually stayed home, like decent human beings. And when I say that, I mean people who stayed home for not work reasons. Like, if you had to go to work, obviously you had to go to work. But I'm talking about the people who are like on TikTok, like, yeah, we're at the beach because we don't give a heck. Um, Fuck those people. um, but obviously everyone who tried to stay home was trying to find ways to entertain themselves, and people who are stuck at home want to do stuff, and so they start thinking of projects. And especially a lot of people I know, because a lot of people I know are artists, and a lot of the artists I know are wrestlers. They're performing artists who, for a year and a half, the main form of art that they do, myself included, was taken away. Um, and so obviously a lot of those people needed to find other creative outlets, because a huge thing they love to do and a huge passion of a lot of people was just gone all of a sudden. A lot of people were gearing up for big shows right when the pandemic hit. And one month we were all doing, you know, 2, 3, 4, 5 shows a week, whatever. And then the next month, uh, there was nothing at all. Unless you were like fucking WWE or something, where you have a bajillion dollars to do a fucking Thunderdome set with TVs and all this shit. But even them at the beginning, their shows were empty. They were still doing shows because they have TV deals, and like them and AEW have TV deals they have to fulfill. But they were doing empty arena shows. They weren't even like the TVs and stuff. But indie shows were just gone. Like, so a huge thing that a lot of us love to do, you couldn't do anymore. And some people like myself had other creative outlets as well. Like, I had my podcast, I had my YouTube channel. But it still hurt. It still stung taking that hit and not being able to go out and perform and do the thing I love. And a lot of people, I think, felt that. And it sucked. And, over the past couple months, as cases have gone down, shows have slowly started to open back up. And, there were shows that were like socially distanced or outside. And now, as things have gotten better, the vaccine is becoming more available. I'm fully vaxxed. Shout out Moderna. By the way, if you're not vaxxed, go get vaccinated. Go to fucking... I didn't the second round of mine at fucking Safeway. You could go to the store and they'll do it for free. Please just go do it. It's super... I know it sucks to go get a shot and possibly feel like shit for 2 days. I felt like shit for 2 days, but it was crazy worth it in the long run. But yeah, shows have slowly started to open back up. And a lot of us are kind of returning to doing what we love. And more importantly, doing what we love in front of people. Because I've always had the stance, and some people may agree, some people may not agree. And whatever camp you sit in as a performer, that's fucking lit. Like, that's your 100% your opinion on it, and I'm super like down for any camp of it. Just for me personally, and where my creative satisfaction comes from, I hate wrestling in front of no people. And obviously every indie wrestler's had that dreaded show where like you go out of the curtain and there's like fucking 8 people, and like 4 of the people are somebody's mom and child, so they're not paying attention. you know, we've all had a weird show like that, or the fucking flea market show where like, and this isn't every flea market show, but sometimes you'll like go to a flea market show or a fair show, and like, yeah, there's 10,000 people there, but like 9,005 billion of them are just not. They're there for the fair, and they walk by getting a corn dog, and they're like, "There's people beating each other up without clothes on over there," and that's kind of the extent of like your viewership, is people going like, "Wow, that's crazy. I'm gonna go get a lemonade." um, And again, like I said, like that's not every show by any means. Like I've been to fair shows where there are a couple thousand people sitting there watching attentively and watching the performers do what they're doing and are very there for that. But it's a mixed bag. Sometimes it's that. Sometimes it's the complete opposite. Um, but during the pandemic, there were a lot of people doing shows where there was no crowd. Which, by the way, I want to say, thank God they were doing that. Like, this isn't me being like, that was weird. What the fuck? I know how bad people wanted to wrestle. I know how bad I wanted to wrestle. So for people with a building, with a nice building, I completely understand why they would just do these like pre-taped, shows and release them on YouTube or Fight TV or Twitch or whatever platform they were releasing them on. And again, it just comes down to where your kind of creative satisfaction lands. And for me personally, I hate it. It's so weird because you feel that rush when there's fans, and the fans are who we do it for. And so when there's no one there to kind of react to the thing you're doing, and there's no one there to work with, and there's nobody but the people putting on the show, it's just like, and by the way, again, I'm not shit talking that method at all. Like, for the people who could go out there and perform, you know, with nobody in the seats, like, fucking power to you. That's like crazy hard to do. And it's something we've all had to do, whether it be learning how to wrestle or, doing it during the pandemic. Um, but some people, like myself, I understand why they decided to just try and find other outlets until it was safe to perform in front of crowds again. And for some people who didn't and just wanted to put on shows for people to view online, I also understand that. And I commend that because for a lot of people, wrestling is their escape. And, I'm sure the pandemic felt like a scary time for all of these people who one of their favorite things to do is go to indie shows and experience the atmosphere of pro wrestling. Because a big thing a lot of people don't understand is like, I don't think you really garner the experience of wrestling by watching it on TV. Um, at least for your first time. Like, the amount of times I've shown someone a wrestling match that I really love on television, they can usually understand the appeal, and they usually go, "Oh, that's fine," or maybe it was kind of silly, but it's cool. Um, but then you take that person to a show, let alone, especially an indie show. Um, that's how you create fans, because as you know, nice as it is that it's super accessible to just watch it for free on TV or YouTube or whatever, going to an indie show and not only supporting these local wrestlers, but just being in that environment and seeing these people just put everything away for 2 to 3 hours, sometimes longer, but just everybody, just every trouble in their life and everything that's going on, just leaving it out the door for a couple of hours and watching us go out there and do what we love to do. That's how you make fans. And, you know, I've always kind of said, like, wrestling wouldn't be anything without the fans. Um, and so during the pandemic, it kind of hit me hard because it started to feel like that. Like, fuck, like, what are we doing this for if there's nobody to do it for? Um, and then as I started to see the engagement more and more online, I did start to see and realize they're still fucking out there. Like, there were people, watching every stream they could, downloading and buying and supporting every show they could. Um, and it kind of changed my perspective on these sort of empty arena shows. Because while and it was still, trust me, still hard to do with nobody actually there. But knowing that there are people out there watching, and there are people who are excited and sometimes even rely on watching people perform. That's what we do it for. Or at least I'd hope to think that's what most people do it for. Um, and so now it is really crazy that in over a year and a half or a year or whatever, uh, there's finally starting to be shows opening to fans. Um, and I technically have already had my first experience back in the ring. And it was really fun. I had a really good match. It's actually up on my channel if you want to go watch it. The channel that this podcast is on. It's up. So if you want to go watch it, it was a lot of fun. Crowd was a little much. A lot of transphobic comments being lobbed from the audience, which is, a common theme with pro wrestling sometimes when you go to certain places. And I very heavily stress certain places because not every crowd is like this. But I think sometimes crowds forget that because you're a heel, that means that's justification for them saying really awful, transphobic, homophobic, and racist, bigoted shit to you. Because they're a heel, and it's like, okay, so that means that you can be a piece of shit in real life and say all this horrible shit because they're a heel. Like, so that's an experience I've had quite a lot. People who think because I'm a heel, they're allowed to just lob horribly transphobic shit at me from the crowd. And by the way, if you do that, you're a piece of shit, and fuck you. I even had at that show a fan try and throw water at me. They missed because I honestly, I don't even know why I said because they suck. I tweeted about it too, and I'm just kind of like, if you're gonna try and throw something at me, don't fucking miss. I, I was like grossed out and disgusted that this lady who was yelling transphobic shit at me the whole show would even feel compelled or think she has the right to throw anything at me, or any performer for that matter. But I was almost even more upset at the fact that she fucking missed. Like, if you're gonna be a fucking transphobe and be gross and be this shitty of a person, at least don't fucking miss. Hey, what the fuck? Like, you can't be this stupid and ignorant of a person and also be bad at aiming. Like, well, dude, I'm embarrassed for you now. Like, I'm sorry you suck and you missed. All you did was get the floor all fucking wet and waste a drink. But Jesus Christ. But yeah, like I said, I technically had my first experience back in the ring. But not this weekend, but next weekend, the 19th and the 20th, I will be back in California, and I'm so goddamn excited for this weekend. It's going to be a very, very big wrestling weekend for me. On the 19th, I will be in San Jose, California. I'll be wrestling at UGWA, which is a company I've been trying to work for a very long time. I love their stuff. I think they're great. My brother's there. My brother, Titus Alexander. He's there. He's their San Jose champion, I believe. Apologies if I got the name of that belt wrong. This is my first time being there. But yeah, he's got that sick belt with the shark on it. It's he's there, and he's always fucking having great matches out there. I think he'll be wrestling D-Rogue, which is a match I'm excited to see. Shout out D-Rogue. So I'm excited to be there, and I'll also be there. I'm very, very excited. I think what they are doing is great. I love their blend of styles. You know, Ugwa has a very prominent spot in the death match wrestling community. Excuse me. But they also have some just crazy fucking competitive athletic matches as well. And I'm excited to bring the brand over to Ugwa and shoot my shot and see how the San Jose crowd feels about Abigail Warren. Um, but yeah, I'm super duper excited. So yeah, if you are gonna be in San Jose or near there and you want to go to the show, go, because it's wrestling and it's great and I'm super excited. Ugg was great. All the wrestlers are great. I feel like I'm hopefully great and you like me and you want to go. I would hope you would like me if you're watching this, but I don't know. I hate watch stuff sometimes, so maybe you're doing that. Which, if you're hate watching this, hey. Yeah, and then the next day I will be in Pachenko for Full Queer, which is a pride show being put on. Um, and I'm super fucking excited for this show. I feel like, you know, obviously I'm very, very open about my gender identity. I'm a trans woman. I use she/her pronouns. I'm super excited because I feel like the queer wrestling scene, while it has been on a very good and prominent rise, thank fuck, because there's so many goddamn good, talented queer performers. Um, I'm very excited that I'm getting an opportunity to not only show, uh, an entire roster of queer people and queer wrestlers and fans what I can do, but also just excited to meet uh, some wrestlers from my community that I've never met before or haven't got the chance to work. In round one, I'm in the Prince X of Pride tournament as well, so I'll be competing for that title, which I'm super excited for. And I hope you go and support me because I want to win. I want to do it. And hopefully, I can fight my way through, and you'll be there, and you'll say, wow, she's cool. But yeah, I'm in the first round of the tournament. I'm wrestling Mariah Moreno. I hope I'm saying that right. Who is also a transgender wrestler, and I'm super excited to wrestle her. I've never gotten a chance to wrestle her, but it's gonna be great. And I'm always not only excited to wrestle new wrestlers in general, but again, other people from my community. So I'm super excited for the opportunity, and I think it's gonna be a fucking kick-ass show. There's so many fucking cool people on this show. Um, and so the I'll put the flyer up on the screen, and also in the description I'll put like a link to the people who are running it. I'll put their Twitters, and you can see all the matchups and all the information. And yeah, I'm super fucking excited for that weekend. Um, so yeah, I'm very excited to get back to doing what I love. Not only with professional wrestling, but with this. Um, Doing the podcast is one of my favorite things in the world, and making stuff is one of my favorite things in the world. And it sucked not being able to do any of it for quite a while, quite a bit of time, due to just life being crazy and different things of that nature. Um, but hopefully, we're back in business. We can get this party started and get ready for a new era of the podcast and hopefully also my wrestling career. um, but yeah, I just want to also a quick second to say thank you to anybody who supports me in wrestling or supports just my life or supports my content, whether by watching it or sharing it or whatever. This is literally what I want to do with my life. I like talking, and I like performing, and I like making things for people. But I also like making things for myself. It's just doing the podcast is so amazing for me and my mental health, and it is just so nice to be able to create things again, in general, just to be able to make stuff. Um, I've been so excited planning videos and recording stuff with Ryan, for the channel. So yeah, if you support any of my stuff, thank you so much. And anyone watching this, thank you so much for coming to watch me rant about wrestling for an hour or half an hour or whatever. Um, yeah, I really am excited to be back doing what I love. Again, I'll be in California, San Jose the 19th, and Pacheco the 20th. So if you want to catch those shows, please go do it. Support those people. Support me. Support everyone involved. And come watch some kick-ass wrestling. Um, I'm working on more videos for the channel. Like I said, Saffron Sapphics YouTube channel is up, and there'll be Let's Plays stuff, as consistently as we can make it. We're not on like an official schedule yet, but we're trying to lock one down. But go over there and subscribe for the podcast and Let's Plays and stuff like that. Also, subscribe to this channel, where I will be hosting the video podcast and also, hopefully, some other content soon. I'm putting some of my matches on here now and have some other videos planned. So, yeah, thank y'all so much for joining me. I really, really appreciate, everybody listening. And yeah, and most importantly, thanks for stopping by.